Warning, this episode contains graphic language, dragon boning, that asshole Sloane, and as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, teen angst.
Amen.
Also, there'll be spoilers for chapters 70 through 78 of Inheritance, Book 4 of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. And anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who is thrilled we've made it so far in this adventure together, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on this epic journey. Now, one last time into the breach for this final book of the series.
And I'm Jackie Lanier, and is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast that made it to the end of the original Inheritance Cycle. We could not have done it without the best and, dare I say, most unhinged book club in the game. So thank you, listeners, for following us down every wild rabbit hole, untangling every web of Dane's red string, and poking very occasional fun at some of our beloved characters. It's been a ride.
It's been fun. If you would like to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the show notes. For this week's listener shout out, I want to thank Lexi S.
Yes.
for backing the show. Lexi has now become one of the chosen ones. If you know, you know. And you can join her in the book club inner circle.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lexi. And as this airs, we will be picking winners for our merch giveaway. Look for an email from isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com to see if you won. And we'll be sure to shout out winners on our socials as well. That's at isthisjustfantasypod on TikTok and at justfantasypod on Instagram. And the time has come for this. The recap to end all recaps.
Let's do it.
This is what the training is for, Dane. And I feel ready. I feel loose. Are you ready to recap?
I'm feeling ready. I'm ready.
Okay, because we're going over the absolutely bonkers conclusion to the Battle of Urobane before we finish the original Inheritance Cycle. So we started our last episode with Roran, gearing up to lead his battalion of humans, Urgles, Kull, elves, and werecats into the chaos of Galbatorix's stronghold. The walls full of laughing dead are no obstacle for our Stronghammer and his best boy Baldur. And as the elves blast a path into the city, we flash over to Eragon, running the ninja warrior course of his life to reach Gal's throne room. The witch baby and her boy wizard make a nearly perfect run of it, while Murtagh is still stuck trying to get Thorn inside the front door. But when the throne room is within reach, every single one of our second string elves gets teleported away, leaving Eragon, Saphira, Arya, and Elva to confront the just and rightful ruler of Alagasia. But back to the Stronghammer. It's bloody bedlam in the streets of the capital, complete with misfiring magic, broken barst, mysterious medics, and most importantly, healthcare for heroes.
Protect Baldur.
Yes, that's correct. Fingers crossed, Dane. Hopefully just on your left hand, maybe, for Baldur. Until we meet your perfect horse son again, we flash back to Eragon confronting Gal in the throne room and learning that our big bad is exponentially more terrifying than we imagined. He controls the essence of magic itself, and we are pretty much fucked. He's just playing games, though, pitting half-brothers in a classic cage match style kind of sword fight, no rules, as Roran squares up with the Barst-themed horror show in the streets. After our brother-cousin watches the brand new and way too improved foe strike down elves, Kull, horses, and Queen Islanzadi with impunity, he decides it's time for a Stronghammer signature batshit plan. He launches a catapult hailstorm and a barrage of martial attacks at this dude to drain his Eldenari battery, but it comes down to a good old-fashioned wrestling match in the end. And if anyone was going to prevail there, it's Manic Roran when his wife is in danger. So Stronghammer, strong hams, absolutely everywhere, crushing Barst and his Eldenari in a blaze of glory, 1 point Varden. Which leaves Garrow's other boy to win his fight. Same basic concept as Roran. Just kidding. Eragon is still so fucked, facing down Murtagh, beating the emo or older teen through the art of defeat. And if it isn't broke, don't fix it, Bean Farmer. So when Gal bears down on Eragon in the mind fight to end all mind fights, our guy, the guy, shows the insane, genociding, murder wizard emperor that the true strength was vulnerability all along. Thank you, Brom. Which left us, as our last episode faded to black, watching a flood of emotions finally hit Galbatorix and turn the final boss into a nuclear bomb that we don't know if anyone survived, Dane, and I have to know. No,
they all died. That's it. Thanks for joining our podcast, everybody.
I just can't believe we made it. Am I okay? Are we okay? Is this podcast okay? Has it become unhinged to the level it can no longer sustain, do you think?
I don't know. I think we have more unhinged stuff to say.
I could almost guarantee that, yeah. So I wanted to ask before we dive into these chapters, do you have a favorite moment from just this book? Spoilers allowed. I know you like rules.
Spoilers allowed. From just this book. Mm-hmm. Whew. I like, gosh, this is tough. This book is, I've read this book the least amount of times.
Yes.
I'm trying to think.
Same.
I think I'm a big fan of the Aro stuff. I think Roaring in Command is kind of cool.
Okay.
What about you?
So you're going barges at the end of the day, Dane?
I think it's absolutely insane. Yeah. But I think I'm going barges.
Okay, this is really stupid and small, but I think the opening of this book in Bellatona, I think just watching our Avengers-style team unite to run through that city where we have Eragon, Roran, Arya, and Bloodgarm just decimating the streets of Bellatona. That was so fun for me. It had so much lightheartedness and really, I feel grounded all their connections before things really went to shit. But because I could never pick just one thing, honorable mention for Eragon being told where to look in a book.
Yes. And Solomon.
And asking, what do you think it means? It's maybe my favorite thing that ever happened.
Yeah, Solomon's hilarious. He's just what the fuck do you mean,
Come
man?
on, bud.
But this episode is chunky.
It is so beefy. I think we're good to leave favorite moments just for this book for now, and maybe we can do favorite series-wide moments.
Yes.
I think we've talked a little bit about doing a bonus episode. I think we can confirm that will be taking place. I think it should be out in 2 weeks, and we will review favorite moments series-wide and give me the space I need to pick 27 of them.
And on that
I'll try to do better.
We'll dive deep into this. Last set of chapters for the original Inheritance cycle.
Get him, Dane.
Here we go. Chapter 70, A Sea of Nettles. We come back to Eragon this week, and our boy's not dead.
Thank God.
Just waking from yet another head wound. He needs a helmet. You know these helmet kids, Jax? You know that? Have you seen this? Anyway.
I'm just glad we could leave him with one final head wound.
Anyway, things are tense. Eragon finds himself in darkness, and his magic bubble shield is being pressed hard by the explosion and rubble. He checks everyone's mind to see if they're all alive, and they are!
Yes.
He saved them all. We do get the very predictable side note here that Thorn's mind is much darker and contorted than Saphira's, which sounds right for our sad boy's dragon. As he's musing on his emo brother having an even emo-er dragon, the Eldenari wake him out of his brain break.
Oh, good.
Kind of freaking out, saying, hey, we can't hold this shield thing for much longer, man. And it looks like Eragon and the gang are all about to die. So, roll credits. So what's going on is a little confusing here. It sounds to me that they're still inside the same chamber that Gal completely imploded in.
Yes.
Where he was, the stone is molten hot and glowing. Behind that, just a full side of Shuriken is basically charred away. So the thing that always confused me was the shield bubble Eragon is using to protect them, because it seems like Eragon is holding back not just the rubble that is dropping down from the ceiling, but it sounds like some energy and heat, maybe, from the toxins from where Gal exploded. Maybe this is another nuke situation.
It definitely sounds like that. All the description, I was like, oh, you get the wild energy of the main blast, and then it kind of contracts back in on it. So I don't know. It sounds wild.
It sounds wild.
That's
regardless,
science from podcasters.
It's weird because as soon as that problem is explained, and it seems like the shield might just burst, whatever was shredding it slowly eases back, which is just a nice turn of events.
Yes.
And then boom, the ceiling starts to really become the bigger problem, because basically the whole group needs to get the fuck out of there because it starts falling.
Yes.
Eragon takes the kids, including Elva, which is a weird sentence to say, on Saphira, while Murtagh frees Nasuada and gets her on Thorn. And the bros from different foes fly out of here. Arya decides to run and find the last dragon egg after getting its location from Murtagh, and I have to say, this is so true to her character, and it's pretty cool as hell. I'm glad she does this. As they escape, flying past melting stone, they leave behind what is now a tomb with many servants and residents lying dead in the halls. Taking in this carnage, they hear the throne room, where they had just been, collapse in on itself. So good thing they escaped.
Yes.
As they escape, Eragon sees that people are fleeing their homes as the fire spread, running through the streets in absolute panic. And I have to say, it sounds like it's a bit of a bad day here in Urbane.
It would not be the best day to be just a regular old citizen of Urbane.
And okay, in the weirdest and I think might be the most hilarious part of this book, Eragon just drops off the 2 hostage kids at their house, which is pretty close to the explosion situation. And this was so weird to me. I don't know what he should have done, but I don't think releasing them loose into a besieged city that is in a panic and on fire in the care of someone you don't know just sounds a little bit off. I mean, how does he know this old man is their grandpa or dad or whatever? It's so weird.
I mean, yeah, I feel like you hate to advocate for making children wards of the state, but like we do know that the Varden has a pretty sweet childcare situation. Like their safety net, like we've talked about numerous times, is unparalleled. So do you think Queen President should take like ownership of these children? Ownership
of the children. I don't think that.
No.
But I just think it's weird. Like, I guess I don't know what.
They're so close to the explosion.
I know.
He's like, I'll get you out of the room, but like, I'll drop you next to it.
Well, there's like fires and people are running. He's like, all right, guys, you have a nice.
Wild.
Anyway, we're going to go right past that. Regardless, after the kids are dropped off at the most dangerous daycare center, Murtagh and Eragon dismount and do some much needed healing. Yes. They both heal their dragons and themselves from their grievous death wounds while giving each other the eye. Eragon is overcome with emotions at this point.
Yeah.
And me too. Because he fucking did it.
Yes.
No more Bean Farmer or Kevin jokes from me.
No.
This is the rider who got Galby. He's a legend. That's the Shade Slayer right there.
Yes, a king killer.
Yeah, this terror organization, Rebel Alliance. Has through grit and determination fucking straight up exploded that motherfucker who is not the rightful king. You heard it here first.
I'm proud of you. You've really made some strides on that.
Yes. Anyway, it's a nice moment as Saphira and Eragon, much like his brother cousin somewhere else in the city, take a moment to sit down and bask in the glory of victory. It's clear that they thought they were going to their deaths, so the relief is palpable.
Yeah.
However, it's a bittersweet moment because Saphira is conflicted. She's mourning the loss of Shuriken and the loss of her race, really, as they no longer have the memories of those eggs, remember?
Right.
So it's a sad day for the dragons. But Glader gives Eragon some props, saying he was the only dude who could have dared to use a spell like that on Gal, and expresses some real pride in him. It's a touching moment.
Yeah.
Then suddenly, Eragon remembers the eggs. Saphira remembers the eggs. Everyone remembers the eggs. The dragons are coming back, and it's an even happier day for the gang.
Oh my god, it's amazing. I forgot that they had forgotten. That's meta forgetting
you had
here.
Forgotten that they had forgotten. Yeah, okay.
Yes, but
great.
now I'm glad I know they know.
Now you
we
remember.
know they know.
As
you
they
know?
remember. It's an all-around victorious moment as Arya, Bloodgarm, and the magic elven strike team of doom.
Dane, that's catchy. I like that.
Well, I don't think we've done that one before.
No, couldn't possibly have. I think that's going to be it.
Yeah. They emerge from the broken citadel with Arya holding the last of Gal's dragon eggs. It's all coming up good, guys.
Yes.
The Sex Panther gets props for me here, too, as his crew has secured all of Gal's insane Eldenari.
Oh, good.
Did anyone else notice here how Bloodgarm gets a hug from Eragon, but not Arya? Maybe Eragon also has a side thing with the Sex Panther?
Oh my god.
Does everyone?
I don't know. Me? Did you think Arya seemed like a hugger?
That's the real question. We can't dwell on that, though, because not enough time. Because Eragon shares the news of all the eggs on Vrowengard, and the elves react with huge smiles and tears of joy. It's all very lovely. It's probably one of the happiest moments in the series.
Yes.
With everyone just feeling beautiful and pure joy.
Yeah.
However, the mood is pretty much instantly dampened when Murtagh and Thorn just leave without saying anything, ruining the vibes, but leaving the Eldenari they had behind.
Mixed bag. Yes. Classic mixed bag.
It's weird. Eragon catches up with Murtagh and Thorn, finding them on a hillside beside a river surrounded by Sea of Nettles. Murtagh stands, eyes hard, looking out below him, and I describe it in such detail because this is a fucking Thomas Kincaid moment if I've ever heard of one. I think Thomas Kincaid painting with this scene added to it, or even a motivational poster that says like, hang in there, you got this.
Do they got this, you think, Dave?
Well, anyway, the brothers meet. I will say Murtagh is giving passive-aggressive here.
Oh, yeah.
He mentions that he can't stay because the dwarves wouldn't approve. And, I mean, he killed our king dwarven daddy.
That tracks.
Eragon suggests that they should just hang out. Maybe meet Rord, have a family reunion. You know, they're all family. Murtagh insists that he and Thor need to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, they definitely do.
Yes.
and he needs space from Nasuada, probably because of the torture thing, right?
I would guess so, yeah.
guessing.
As much as people think those crazy kids can make it, Dane.
Well, I have mixed feelings about the vibes here. I understand that both the Selena brothers are a bit guarded, but it really seems like Murtagh thinks Eragon's going to try to fight him here. I think he's in his own head. Regardless, the anger and the dislike he has towards Eragon in here is definitely in the subtext. If he doesn't say it outright, it's all weird and bittersweet.
Yeah.
Then they discuss how Murtagh and Thorn changed their true names.
Yes.
And I have to commend Eragon for not saying I told you so, because I probably would have blurted that out immediately, especially with the vibe that Murtagh's given off.
Yes, Dane, know thyself. That's your first step to true name assurance.
Eragon tries to ask about Nasuada, but Murtagh just straight up ignores him. And instead reminisces about the hill they are on, which happens to be the same hill they were on when they were traveling with Arya running from the Emperor, and I cannot remember them ever being close to the capital. But
yes, they're by the Rammer River. I'm sure we made a host of uncomfortable jokes about that, but this
Rammer, I hardly know her.
Exactly. That's the spirit. But I think this is where Saphira dragged all those like screaming horses across the river, and the soldiers were like bearing down on them after they left Gilead.
Yeah, I like clear as day.
I like the honorable mention that like we were here with Arya, and it's like, well, she was unconscious.
Was she really here?
Was she there?
During this whole thing between the Dragon Bros from the same hoe, their dragons are chatting. But we aren't privy to that conversation, which is, I'm a little bummed about that one. They stand together for a while, looking at the beauty of the land, while Someday by Nickelback plays in the background, and their hair flows in the wind, and a montage of them traveling together in the good old days is cross-cut over it all. And then as Nickelback slowly fades down, but doesn't go out completely away, we get this wide shot as Eragon asks him to find them when they're not so angry. And after a pause, like a long pause, we got to a very close of Murtagh as he says in the camera, he will. They predator handshake. It's not in the text, but I'm pretty sure that's what they do here. And then the moment ends. The credits roll, and that is it. That's the end of the book, everybody. Thank you.
How many times have you called the end of the book?
Third. This is a great ending. This would have been fantastic.
Oh my god.
Okay, maybe it's not exactly like that, but it is pretty close.
Dan, at this point, I'm starting to get the vibe that you're like on the Disney Plus payroll.
I mean, if they're listening.
The scene craft is.
I have ideas. Murtagh basically says, I think this goes on this scene. That's why I edited it there. That's a perfect ending. Anyway, Murtagh basically says he didn't believe Eragon could do it, but he fucking did it.
Rude, kind of.
Mixed bag. It's dope, and then they tell Murtagh about the dragon eggs, and Thorn trumpets into the sky, and Eragon tells him he's going to rebuild the riders, and Murtagh then annoys me a little when he says, you and Saphira will become the new leaders of the riders, while Thorn and I will live in the wilderness.
I thought that seemed happy for everybody. It seemed like that's very much what he wanted.
And then he adds that it should be this way, suggesting that they make better teachers.
Yes.
But the sentiment I get throughout this whole meeting is that somehow Eragon is to blame for Murtagh's plight. Murtagh is my boy.
Yes.
But Eragon is just not the enemy here. And actually, he's kind of been on Murtagh's side the whole time.
Yes. Maybe Eragon should have led with the I told you so. Maybe that would have driven it home really the way it needed to be.
The way it always does when you tell someone you tell them so.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Murtagh just like 30 minutes ago who tried to kill Eragon?
That's correct, yes.
Yes. I love my emo boy, but he's throwing a bit of a pity party.
Isn't he always? Where's Nasuada to snap him out of it, tell him he's being a bitch?
Yeah. Murtagh asks that Eragon teach the new writers not to fear.
Yeah.
And I'm back admiring my main man.
Stop.
Yeah, it's clear there's some self-reflection. He's referred to himself in Thorn, acknowledging their struggles with fear and its destructive nature.
That's true.
Maybe coming around to anger. Who knows? Then we finally, for the first time in the series, get a taste of Thorn's voice.
Okay.
And it turns out to be musical.
Oh.
Which was a fun surprise.
Yeah, definitely out of left field.
Yeah, it was what a choice.
Yeah.
Thorn thanks Eragon for not killing Murtagh, and I like him already. And then he blesses Eragon. However, Glader interrupts with some savage remarks while all this is happily going along. But instead of getting pissy back, Murtagh does ask if they can be forgiven. Glader,
bold,
being the just savage dragon that he is, responds with a firm no.
Yep.
But does say that he understands that they aren't entirely to blame for Ormus.
Yeah.
He then softens a bit and acknowledges that in the end, They turned out not to be such dicks. This whole exchange made me laugh, especially because Glader says they're worth being considered writers.
I did like that. That feels like one of those technicalities when people say, like, I'm not running for president right now. He's like, you're worth being considered writers. It's like considered as applicants, considered writers in full. I have a lot of questions.
It's perfect however you take it. It's hilarious. Umaroth steps in and says that they have watched Murtagh and Thorn. Didn't help, though. Didn't help at all. And says something I assume will play a part in the new Murtagh book.
Yes.
They say they'll teach them when they're ready and that they should, quote, avoid the barrows of Anghelm, where the one and only Urgal King, how cool,
dude,
Kulkravek lies in state. Do this, and unless you are greatly unfortunate, you shall not encounter danger beyond your ability to master.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Gotta know. Gotta know.
I want to know about the Urgal King. Anyway, finally, Murtagh tells Eragon the name of names, gives him another predator handshake. I'm sure. It's not in the text, but I'm sure that's what happens. And calls Eragon his brother. It's a nice moment. We know where I would have stopped, but it's nice. Murtagh then leaves Eragon and this chapter on an unsettling note, which I kind of feel like is his back. I mean, he's not a guy who like leaves on a good note.
No, so fair.
That they should be on guard, as a lot of Gal's allies will be unhappy and seek revenge.
Yes.
That there will be some of Gal's allies stronger than the Razak.
That's bad.
That's a chilling thought. But I mean, Lord Bars was too, so it makes sense.
Yes, I guess who isn't at this point?
Yes, and with that, we leave with him flapping
into the wind. I guess if you'd stopped where you wanted, would Eragon have gotten the name of names? That's a big coup for our guy.
I mean, he would have whispered it. Like, oh, by the way, here's the names.
Okay. Perfect. Good addendum.
He would have slipped him a note.
Oh, perfect.
And the predator handshake.
Dropped it from.
Yeah, it would have been
Thorn's
secretly
back.
like pickpocketed into his like lapel. So he's like, "Ooh, what's this?" At the end, it'd be like,
Saphira would be like, "Read the paper," and Eragon would be like, "What does that mean?"
I don't know if that's what we should be doing.
It does take us to chapter 71, Heir to the Empire. This chapter picks up with Eragon at sunset, still the same day. They defeated the evil emperor.
Nice.
And I know there has been much ado on this podcast, among many things that we just really make a big deal about. But we have talked about a few incredibly long days of errands on screen over the course of the series. But I think this officially takes the cake. And I love this for the end of the OG inheritance cycle, for the last episode of this season, for the overthrow of our just and rightful ruler. This is the start date of the 10th chapter from this single day. What? By every measure, I checked. By every measure, page count, word count, audiobook minutes, and most important of all, podcast episodes. This is the longest day in the inheritance cycle, period.
Oh, wow.
And you know Christopher Paolini had to give us a little nod in the opening that Eragon understandably just wants to kick it for the night. He's fucking done. But Eragon thinks there's always more work to be done. And I'm just like, you just did a quick, like, pre-breakfast assassination/coup combo.
Yeah.
And you've had the rest of the day free to work. This is like peak hustle culture. What more do you want, Eragon?
Like we said before, Paolini is American, and it comes through very true.
So rise and grind, you know? Eragon's on his way up one of Urbane's green spires, thinking about the immediate aftermath of the nuclear explosion that just happened in the city. The Varden has had their hands full wrapping up the battle, getting refugees out of the city, healing what sounds like magical radiation, and walling up the citadel to contain the rest of the radiation. So they're doing one of those like concrete tomb situations, it sounds like.
In Nevada.
Yeah. Yes. But also on their post-war to-do list is Eragon using the name of names to undo like the lattice work of spells that Gal put on Urobane and the people in it. Galbatorix's enslaved Eldonari don't take this very well, so Bloodgarm and his crew had like needed to take them way, way, way far away from the city to try to calm them down because they were basically just like driving everyone crazy with their psychic powers.
Probably the best one to do it. He's probably got some X's in there too. He's like, come on, calm down, pretty babies. Like, it's gonna be okay.
100%. Eragon's also thinking about the briefest of mind meld catch-ups that he had with Arya earlier while she was with the Elven War Council, finding out about her mom's death, which was sad.
And bummer.
Yes, I do really relate to what Eragon thinks about trying to comfort her. He says nothing he can say or do seems enough to meet the situation. And I'm like, oh, that's really real, that it's hard.
Yeah.
And as he continues spiraling up the stairs, he's treated to another fun spiral of existential variety. He's thinking that he doesn't know what to make of his life now that he's achieved the goal that motivated him through this entire saga. Like, he's been through so much strife for this thing.
Yeah, he's finished med school.
Yes. And now, does he start a private practice, Dane?
I don't know. What does he do? He just works until he dies? Like, what's this about?
Yes, we love our relatable king. Both of us notably familiar with what it's like to finish med school.
I don't know why that was the example I used.
I love it. Good for you. But finally, Eragon gets where he's going, and wouldn't you know, there he is.
Sorry, I'm so laughing. Like, we have a podcast about books. So like, med school. You know what I mean?
You know what it's like when you finish med school, fellow doctors.
We grind in residency. You know?
Incredible. So Eragon shows up to what ends up being like a VIP council meeting with Saphira, Queen President, Dark Orin, Auric, Arya with a +1, and Grimer Halfpaw. It is another one of these situations. Now that you've like put me onto this, I'm wondering where the fuck Nargarshbra is. Why is he not invited? But there's no time for drawing some in-group, out-group conclusions about that, Dane. We are busy. The vibe in here is super tense, but of course, top-tier character Auric, like he has been this whole time, lightens things up at the council meeting by giving Eragon a super heartwarming greeting and a congratulations. And nobody seems to want to address the elephant in the room, but after a very uncomfortable silence, Elven +1, Lord Datheter, asks the inevitable, so, what now, guys? Eragon takes a quick sidebar to think about how gaunt Nasuada is looking, which again, I'm like, rude. Why do you keep looking, like thinking about how everybody looks like shit? They've been being tortured, bud.
He's like, I look great. Everybody looks like shit.
Yes, so rude. And I'm just like, dude, the fact that she is functioning at all just makes me wonder about like what kind of magical uppers that premium Varden healthcare gets you. I'm like, is this part of the package?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, but there's no time for that. Datheter points out that they need to name a new ruler before the empire dissolves into chaos. It's coming up quick. And Dark Orin, still salty, even in victory somehow, says anyone who isn't human can keep their succession opinions to themselves. And
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think he's right.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
But he is a dick about it.
Yeah.
But Queen President agrees with him, of course, because this does make sense. She just does it with a lot more tact, obviously, allowing for her allies to voice their input on the matter.
Well, it's fair that he's a dick, but I kind of feel like it's one of the few. I would probably be a dick to the elves, too. I'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude. This is a human thing. Just relax.
I mean, after they played a pivotal role, after they lost their queen and played a pivotal role in winning this battle.
I mean, yeah, but they're still uppity. You know they're walking around. They're walking around with their noses looking down on him, you know?
100%. Their attitudes are a huge problem. But I don't know if, like, of all times, this is the time to
during a diplomatic meeting?
Yeah, this is the time to be a dick to the elves.
Well, that's the only time he won't get stabbed.
I wouldn't put it past them. They fucking wild out when Islanzadi died.
Seriously.
But Datheter lays out the criteria the elves would want to see in the new ruler, so he's just forging right ahead because everybody needs their opinions.
He's like, well, this is what I mean. He's like, I don't really care about you humans. This is all just...
Here's what we need from you. So if you could get to doing it, that'd be great. Yes. But when he wraps up his monologue, he says the thing everybody's thinking, that the people will expect Eragon to assume Gal's mantle. And I'm having major flashbacks to, like, one of the least significant things in the series, but after Aja had died and Eragon met with the Varden's High Council, who we've never seen again. Remember how tense everybody got there? And they were like, don't say yes, dude. Don't say yes.
We spent a whole deep dive and a whole episode on that. And then it just...
Goodbye forever, sweet counselors. I hope you're well. They were a little old. I hope they've all survived.
There's been a lot of traveling since then.
But yes, this reminded me very much of that, with everybody being like, you don't want that, do you? But Eragon sidebars with Saphira just very briefly to consider doing it, and then is like, no. They already know another dragon wizard emperor is not the answer here, and they're like so busy, Dane, with their disembodied dragon souls and their unhatched eggs. They've got shit to do.
You got dragon ghosts, the shepherd.
Yes. So with the collective exhale at Eragon's refusal, Arya floats Rorin as an alternative, which shocks Eragon to his bones, and I was right there with him on this one. Dark Orin naturally has some choice words for this idea because he fucking hates Rorin. And when it's ultimately shot down, Arya cuts to the chase. Is it going to be Dark Orin or Dark Nasuada?
Yeah.
Orin comes in hot with an ultimatum. They can name him as Gal's successor, or he will go to war with the Varden and somehow blame the whole thing on Nasuada, which is just... so wild,
this
dude.
is even I was like, okay, man, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah, you could dial it back a little bit. Arya, Auric, and Grimer all immediately affirm their allyship and align with Nasuada as the leader of the Varden. So Oren busts out what I think he thinks is his really big gun here, claiming that, actually, Nasuada is not the leader of the Varden. Eragon is right now. And I love Eragon. He is just like, does not miss a beat. He's like, fuck that, dude. She became my boss again the second we had her out of the cuffs. I don't want to be in charge of you. You're so rude.
So funny.
So Oren's retort is to call Eragon a mindless servant.
That'll help.
Which sets off a low-key flame war where between like him and Nasuada, where the dads get brought into it. And that's how you know, like, it is really not going well in here. But not to worry, we're in Queen President's house. She has a solution that will repay the sacrifice of Oren and the Surdans by giving them all the southern cities the Varden has conquered. So remember all those sieges we were in, Dane?
Yeah.
Oren can have them. And if Oren will swear allegiance to the Empire, that's really all Nasuada wants.
Yeah.
It's a steep price, but like, I guess you have to start high to negotiate down.
I will say, I personally think Dark Owen sucks a lot.
Yes.
Don't like him. Don't like his characterization. Don't like what he's doing in this meeting.
Yeah.
But I do think he's right that the Surdans deserve most of the spoils. And frankly, in history, Nasuada's going to get a lot of the credit. But like, none of this is really possible, or the wheel doesn't really start without the Surdans.
Yeah.
So I get his like irritation that he's not getting more like accolades here. Not that he's a dick, which is why it's not happening.
Yes.
But like, I do understand why he feels the way he does, and he does want as much as he wants, because I just don't think this is possible without the Surdans. So
well, and it's tough too because everybody in the meeting like is constantly fucking reaffirming this dude's ego, being like, yes, we know, thank you to the Surdans, we couldn't have done it without you. Like, people tell him that, I feel like, constantly, but the only thing higher than what Nasuada can give him is making him the king, and that obviously is not going to happen. That is a crazy ask just on its face. So it's like, where do you go from what she's willing to give, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a complicated situation.
Yeah. But she says that Oren will remain sovereign over his country, but they need to be united in two things: the common defense, which cool, and regulating magicians, which
also
might be
cool.
less cool, but more on that later. No time. She's just like glazes right over it. And Oren launches into a pompous noble classic, which is lineage tracing to establish his claim to the throne. And in response, Nasuada makes her final case, which is really just an incredible one-woman show about what a badass she is. Our girl left no crumbs, dude. There was the briefest of mentions of subduing magic users, but again, more on that later. Not a big deal. Oren's last gasp boils down to whiny petulance.
Yeah, he gets whiny at the end.
That like nobody understands what he's been through, but he
lost me here.
Yeah, but then he doesn't
like,
really elaborate on that. He's just like, you guys don't get it.
Maybe like we need a like Oren POV. Maybe he's going through something. Maybe
he must be. There's something under here. But after he kind of like tuckers himself out, all the allies quickly again affirm the lay of the land if he were to oppose Nasuada, which leaves Dark Oren and Nasuada to dicker over like a couple southern cities and lakes. And as night begins to fall on the silent room, he's just sitting there just steaming, I think, he finally folds. So the chapter fades to black on a chorus of "Long live the Queens," while darkness consumes the land outside of the windows. I am sure that's a coincidence.
Well, we got to, I hope it is. Chapter 72, a fitting epitaph. Coming into this chapter, we learn that months have gone by since the last chapter. It's a time warp.
A time warp. I love a classic time warp situation.
Yeah. Eragon and Saphira have been busy wrapping up this conflict for the Varden around the clock, popping in and out of Urobane, generally just helping Queen President get things under control. Mixing and mingling with the outside world forces Eragon to grapple with his newfound status with the common people and his old acquaintances. He is rightfully known as a dude who not only defeated Durza the Shade and the Razak, but also killed Gabatorix, and who is going to lead the new Order of Dragons. So, I mean, it's kind of a lot.
The people get it, which is fun.
This means he's being treated with great respect by all the races, even the elves. Like it sounds,
wow.
Like it sounds to me that most view him in awe, almost like a demigod or saint, which does make sense.
Yeah.
While Saphira, unsurprisingly, is indifferent to the change and seems to think it's well deserved. Eragon goes straight to hating it. He feels as though he no longer is seen as a real person and begins to distrust anyone outside of his inner circle.
Yeah.
Because he worries that people who are obsessed with him won't treat him normally or be truthful with him. It's a really sad, and like I think in the book it's like he's experiencing this over and over. He's like, people just tell me whatever I want.
Yeah.
It's a sad development.
Yeah.
but one that feels very realistic to me as a doctor.
I think so
Just
too.
kidding.
It's one of those things that like, I'm like, do you think he calls Auric regularly? Because this is exactly what Auric was upset about when they joined back up. He was like, being king is hard. I
Yeah.
feel like all my friends treat me different and I don't really like it. Do you think they get to like
I hope
get
so.
some bro time
I
to
hope they're
talk it
hanging out.
through?
I mean, they were supposed to go to the Winchester and have a pint. I'm
Yeah.
hoping they got there.
Me too.
Nasuada is back, and it is after only 1 day of rest.
Yes, that did shock me. I was like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's the rich people drugs. Like,
It's the rich people.
it's a
drug.
shocking bounce back.
She is quickly coronated, already ruling with a fury on day 2.
Yes.
This whole crowning thing is not my bag. I'm an American, and we bow to no one.
So correct.
But it does seem like a cool time. All the leaders come to the coronation.
Gets you back in the end.
Yeah. And after Eragon is the one to crown her, the other racers all offer their friendship, and King Orin bows to his new
Yes.
High Queen.
Yes, I did like the scene. I'm just glad that like someone finally thought to invite Narkashpra to stand with the other leaders. I was like, everyone's been a mess for a long time, but the event planner for the coronation had their shit together. They were like, this is the lineup.
I think they forgot the Urgle leader. I'm gonna add him to the
I'll add
seating
him.
chart.
I'm sure it's fine with everybody.
Fun side note, the dwarves made her a crown, and the elves supplied the gems from their swords and
Yeah.
armor to adore it. I love this.
Yeah, of course you do. You loved it with Eragon too. Like start to finish, you really are here for a good like cross-cultural sartorial choice.
I do. I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eragon is then sent abroad to use the name of names to undo all of Gal's old oaths. And I couldn't believe this side project Nasuada wanted him to do on his work trip.
Yeah?
She asked Eragon to bind all the nobility and soldiers to her as they had been bound to Galbatorix. What?
Do you think it's one of those like I did hear it when I said it? Yeah. I see the look on your face. I heard it when it was coming out.
I don't think that's what this was.
That's bad.
Anyway, that's some evil shit that Gal did that we do not want Nasuada. That's sketchy.
No, it's pretty bad.
Luckily, our boy Eragon's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do
Good
that.
for him.
Dress Leona is fucking full of magical enchantments, so much so that even the Eldunari can't assist in understanding all of them.
That's wild.
Regardless, Eragon decides to at least remove every trace of magical association with the Church of Helgrind.
Yeah. Priorities, Dane.
Right. We learn here that the cultists had fled pretty quickly when they heard Galbatorix died, and
Great.
despite having the name of names at his disposal, Eragon is still unable to find his lost and priceless braided belt. Classic.
First of all, I can't believe he looked.
Yeah.
But second of all, this is another one of these just like last lingering things that feels very teen boy to me. Like you brought down your ultimate foe, but you still can't help just like losing some of your stuff from time to time. It's just like in his messy room.
My headcanon is he didn't really look. He was like, "Ugh, I don't know where it went." The other night, like, we don't care. It's a belt. Eragon goes place to place doing the same thing, essentially. He's poisoned at one point, but his ward save him. We're not going to dwell on
That's
that.
fine.
Classic putting down the scattered rebellions to build a new government situation.
Happens every time.
Yeah. Then,
Yes.
oh my God, Jacqui, I almost cried.
Oh.
And by almost cried, I mean I cried. Eragon goes to Brom's diamond tomb to visit his father.
Yeah.
It's still looking good. The tomb
good.
keeps our Brom looking tight, as if he's still alive and might open his eyes. I wonder if Eragon could also make Brom look a little bit more jacked too, just a bit. You know,
You think?
I don't know.
You think he wants to have a pump on in death?
just a little pump, just like he's flexing his biceps a little bit. Anyway, Eragon cries for the father he will never know and stares at his face to see how similar they are. He sees it finally, except for Eragon's Garrow nose. He then tells Brom that they succeed and Gal is dead.
Oh, it's
that,
nice.
that the Eragons will not die out and that he is a changed person. There's a moment where he thinks about maybe trying to bring Brom back to life with all the Eldunari at his
dicey.
disposal because Brom's still fresh in there. Isn't freshy?
It was a wild train of thought when he was like, well, he had just died. It was a couple hours. We got him. This is like a good cryogenic freeze. And I'm like, what?
And the dragons don't say no exactly,
So
but
wild.
they tell him Brom might be changed if they were to try and bring him back. It's all very sad.
Yeah.
Umaroth gives him a little pep talk about remembering Brom and holding him in his heart.
Yeah.
And the oldest Eldunari, Valder, says, "Leave the dead to the earth. They are not for us."
Yeah.
And a great sense of sadness and empathy washes over Eragon.
Yeah. From all the Eldunari. I thought that was nice.
It was nice. I mean, I just love that they didn't say no. That's the true strength. That's the true wisdom. They're like, don't say no. Just say maybe a bad idea. That's smart.
Also, they trust Eragon so much. They're like, he's not really
He'll
gonna
figure
do
this
it.
out.
Yeah.
Well, he'll get there.
Is that a common recurrence with dragons. They're like, just let him tucker himself out. It'll be fine.
Glader's like, this strategy is working.
It works every time.
Fantastically. Eragon then fixes the epitaph and makes it say, sorry, here lies Brom, who was a rider bonded to the dragon Saphira, son of Holcomb and Nelda, beloved of Selena, father of Eragon Shadeslayer, founder of the Varden, and bane of the Forsworn.
Yeah.
May his name live on in glory.
Yes.
Didija Uni Morarani. I don't know. Which means something I think similar to like, may you rest in peace.
Yes, that's some ancient language.
Then he uses some magic to protect it forever.
That's
We're moving
really
on.
nice. That's beautiful. It's not that we can't pronounce it. We just were crying.
Yeah, sorry. I was just so sad. And then, well, I was sad he didn't make it more jacked. But anyway.
Dane!
I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
Well, I'm a little sad about that. And the chapter ends as he thanks his dad. Makes me tear up every time. Brom would be so happy and proud of him.
Yeah.
That's basically it. This fucking book.
It was really nice. The Brom stuff definitely gets me.
Very nice.
That does take us to chapter 7.
Okay, but he could have made him more jacked, though, if we're being honest. Okay, sorry.
But for what? You want the picture of the person you loved to live on in your memory as they were in life.
I just imagine he'd be like a fucking
Just like
buff,
hulks out.
buff Gandalf just in there. Just, you know what I mean? Anyway.
No. It's like when they made young Dumbledore hot, and you're just like, we didn't have to.
We didn't need that. We're not against it, but we don't also need it.
Nobody asked for it, I think is the...
No one said no either.
They never do, Dane. That does take us to chapter 73, Pieces on a Board. This chapter starts with Eragon and Saphira back in Urobane, which Nasuada has renamed Illyria, and I, for one, support that change because Illyria is famously much easier to say. And Eragon's in a bit of a tizzy because Arya left and took Gal's dragon egg with her, explaining in a letter that it only makes sense that the egg hatch for an elf immediately, and she asked the Eldonari if this was cool.
I hope you don't find it presumptuous that I went over your head and talked to the Eldonari before consulting you on your thoughts about taking a dragon egg, okay?
It's a really big swing for Arya, probably biggest yet.
Maybe.
And to be topped by only one.
So much more to come.
But I guess all I could say is that, like, if the Eldonari thought this was the move, like, who am I to disagree? Sweet dreams are made of this, Dane. That's all I have for in-story defense, but reading this was jarring for sure. Yeah. She goes on to say in this note that after she drops her dead mom off at home, she wants to go back to her old job as dragon egg transporter. And our old sparring buddy, Draco Elfoy, is going to be the new elven ambassador. Well, Arya, ferries the egg back and forth. I like that too. I think it says, like, he was really interested in learning more about human culture. And I was like, he loves Eragon.
He's like, one of them kicked my ass.
I need to know more.
I wonder if I can find any others.
Yes. What if I beat all the rest of them? Would that make it better?
You know, he's an elf. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yes, he has a burning revenge.
Yes, no. It just seems cool. This seems like he learned a lesson.
He's on your team, Dave.
Yes, I love Vader.
So Eragon gets a pretty serious case of ennui after reading this note. He's just like puttering around Illyria, doing odd jobs, like offering to remove the witch baby's curse permanently with the name of names.
Yeah.
You know, just your classic, like mowing lawns, removing curses
Cleaning
kind of
dishes.
stuff. Yes. She declines because she says if she's going to be an outcast, she at least wants a grim superpower as compensation. It is dark and it is uncomfortable, but I think that is perfectly on brand for her story.
I mean, I think all outcasts just want to have a grim superpower, to be honest.
I think so, a little bit. I think this is just really Christopher Paolini, like, making us uncomfortable to drive home. There are some mistakes and wrongs that can never be wholly undone and never present satisfying solutions.
Yeah,
like Eragon leaves this meeting being like, I don't like that. I don't like
you
that
fuck
at
up.
all. Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
Yes. And after some errands in Gilead and Siunan, hopefully no new curses come out of that. But Saphira asks Eragon if they can take the scenic route back to Illyria to stop by Palancar Valley for the first time since they left.
Notably easier to say.
Easier to say. Well, now I'm just so used to Urobane.
Oh, that's what it is.
But it has that stupid apostrophe in the middle. Illyria. Rolls off the tongue.
Really
Dave.
rolls off the tongue.
That's just some elven supremacy for you. Thought that you'd like.
You know me.
But Saphira wants to stop by Palancar Valley on their way home. It's it'll be the first time since they left on their revenge quest as wee little babies.
Yeah.
And that realization did choke me up a bit. Like, they've seen and been through so much. And when they arrive in the village, like, the charred husk of Carvajal feels like it's taunting them with the thing that everybody finds out eventually, which is you can't go home again. Like, it is bleak here. And it's really sad.
Yeah. Home is where your heart is.
Your hearts. Your hearts of hearts.
Yes, there it is. Home is where your hearts are. That'll be in the merch store.
But Eragon decides not to go visit his bean fields one last time. So I guess I'm with you. We have to stop calling him a bean farmer.
Let's put the hoe down.
He really has brought the hoe down on this situation, if you will. But after they pay their respects at that old ruin in the spine where Gal killed Vrail, they head back to Illyria. And they get an urgent work call from their boss telling them to detour over to Tyrm real quick to help Roran's company take the city, which does want its independence in this shifting political landscape. And even with Eragon and Saphira poised to easily quell this rebellion, the Lord in Tyrm manages to negotiate the Dark Orin special with Nasuada, and Tyrm becomes a city-state sworn to the High Queen President. We liked Tyrm so much. I was like, good for those people.
Good for those people.
He also talked extensively about how well constructed the city was to defend itself in a siege. So I'm like, okay, I remember that.
They weren't messing around.
No.
Also, Helen's probably involved in some way, cutting deals. You know what I mean?
You think Helen's back there pulling strings?
Yeah.
Master of the purse?
She's like, we'll make more money if you guys don't surrender.
Yeah. But their coastal road trip sees them bring Kawasta and Narda to heel, also trying to rebel, before heading back to Illyria to spend some more quality time with the insane Eldonari and Bloodgarm and spelunk for treasure in the ruined citadel with Duvranger Goddess. So that's a fun...
It's a quick little...
Yeah, they're having fun.
Yeah.
And a shout out for the magical version of the Skyview app that Eragon finds in the Citadel. I, too, have been known to consult Skyview in the daytime. So, I would love that magic item that's just see where any constellation is, even when the sun is out.
So fun.
It's so cool. But Nasuada takes the riches they find to do some infrastructure repairs and boost the economy with a little, universal basic income style stimulus money for her subjects. And
do you think her stimulus checks have a picture of her on it?
Dane, why wouldn't they? She's so hot.
That's so true.
Everybody would love it. I mean, so far, with the exception of wanting those fealty oaths, big if, but big but. But with the exception of that, I'm pretty down for the policy platform of High Queen President. Big emphasis also on so far.
Yes.
They also find a repository in the Citadel of old rider swords that our President Swordga gets to take and keep with the Eldonari. And they get their hands on a ton of rare books, which gives Eragon some quality time with Jode, which I love for them.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, the missing Razak eggs, they never find those. A bit of a worrisome loose end, but all in all, this seems to be a nice, aimless, few weeks for Eragon. A little, decompression time, it feels like.
He's probably doing some elf yoga and
absolutely
in the morning, having some dwarven brunch after that,
Yeah, going
the dream.
spelunking.
Yeah, doing some ergo weightlifting after that, just living the dream.
Talking with the crazy dragon souls that Gal broke.
Bring up a new movie. They're just showing him things.
Yes. Eragon watches over this time as Nasuada knits the empire back together, dealing with Galbatorix's court and the Urgal land grants with equal measures of tact and justice. She's good at this, obviously.
Yeah.
Nargarshvog affirms the fealty of his people, but he does backtrack a little here on all the change he seemed to want for their culture when he was running with Eragon and Brissinger. And he leaves us with this ominous warning that the newer generations of Urgals will once again be looking to fight sooner rather than later. And I was a little disappointed that it felt like he was giving up on that mission.
I think, for me at least, I read it as he's just being honest. He can't force these people to change. So
no. But I guess
chances are it's not going to work out.
Yeah, I guess I was left after Brissinger with some hope that he's so accomplished and we've seen people do impossible feats in this series. I was like, well, if anybody can pull this off, Skarsvog.
Yeah, that's true. The Bra could probably do it.
Yes, hopefully he keeps trying. But Eragon continues running diplomatic missions for Nasuada, getting stumped locale after locale that he visits to find a permanent home for the Eldonari and the new riders.
Yeah.
He wants to avoid getting too close to any one group or city, and he's looking for somewhere that isn't too inaccessible and has a mostly temperate climate. And as an introverted California lifer, this is the same as my ideal settlement wish list. He keeps searching, though, as the year fades to winter and the Urgles, dwarves, and elves and werecats finally leave Illyria. So it's just like him and the core humans in Illyria rebuilding. And
less fun.
A little less
Gonna be
fun.
honest.
Yeah, but he still can't find anywhere that he's going to go. It's looking a little bleak out there. And there has been a total news blackout from Arya and Elismira this whole time, too. So Eragon sends Arya a letter, which I thought was nice, and she fucking ghosts him, Dane. I don't like them together, but even I was a little outraged by
Of course she ghosts
this.
him.
Yes, I was
course.
like, Arya, ghosting people is rude. It is not that hard to just be like, hey, this isn't working for me. I don't want to go on that date tonight.
No, not our girl Arya.
Not that difficult. But the months continue ticking by with some assassination attempts, Nasuada's hardening character, and a pair of irksome rebellions. The only real happenings of note, just a couple of things simmering under
Some
the surface.
light rebellion.
Yeah. After the rebellions are quelled, Roran and Katrina's daughter Ismira is born, complete with Nasuada granting Roran an earldom. With,
Hell yeah.
Yes, with dominion over Palancar Valley in perpetuity as just like one hell of a push present. She's like, you got a baby? Here's an earldom.
I like it too because like isn't Carvalho just a place no one wants? So they're like, it's all yours. Bud.
You got it.
You're an earl now.
But in that famous fantasy trope classic, the people of Carvajal want Palancar Valley. They will farm the rutabagas and
The rutabagas.
the rutabagas. They are rutabagas, Dane. And everybody knows rutabagas can't be rutachoosers. I'm so sorry. I
love
have to
it.
go.
Us doing this podcast broken us?
Yeah. I asked right at the beginning, are we okay? Am I okay? Is the podcast okay?
Well, good beans. We got this. Come on.
God. So the common farmer with like the ancient blood of kings
Yeah.
vibe Roran has,
Yes.
he's finally fulfilling his destiny here to take the burden of leadership over his community. It's perfect. It's poetic. It's strong hammery, I think.
Yeah.
And finally, we make it to the meat and potatoes of rebuilding this society, Dane. The interesting stuff. What the fuck are they going to do about a world that has magicians in it?
Ooh.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
Eragon meets with Nasuada, and High Queen President drops the bomb that she wants to establish a magical law enforcement order separate from the Riders before magic starts causing all the havoc it did under Gal, and she wants Eragon to be its leader. What she's cooked up is essentially a shadowy, magical, like FBI, complete with invasions of privacy and questionably authoritarian intentions. It's not a great look. She's really positioning herself as she pitches this as undertaking a difficult and like unpalatable task for the greater good. But Eragon is super uncomfortable with what she's proposing, especially when she makes the point that in this matter, Galbatorix actually had some good points to
I'm not the only one.
to give her a generous read, the most generous conceivable.
Yes.
Worth mentioning, I think, though. I do think this is notable.
Yeah.
She does ask Eragon if he has any other solution. She's like, this is a problem. Your argument is predicated on the idea that this is a problem.
Yeah.
But she's like, I don't have any other solution. You got anything, guy? And he's like, well, no. And she's like, cool, then magical Gestapo. Just wild.
She's like, I want to have a police state.
Yes.
It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eragon buys himself some time to think about this and leaves this meeting. But as he walks the city streets, his unease only grows. He and Saphira take to the skies to talk things over. And I think her take shows a good balance of character consistency, but also growth. She
Yes.
says they'll do exactly what they need to, which is very on brand for the queen of like, I'll break your oaths for you.
Yeah.
But Eragon does sense, he talks about this from his POV, so we obviously have to trust him.
Yeah.
He says that she is being very deferential and she's trusting him to make the final call. I think like will do what needs to be done feels a little different than the first iteration we got of this back in the first book.
I set some trust in Eragon.
For sure.
Yeah.
But before they can settle matters with Nasuada, a familiarly constructed grass ship floats in through Eragon's window, Dane, with a note from Arya. And I'm like, what do you think is worse? Getting ghosted or like having an overly nonchalant reply after way too much time has gone by? Somebody just like texts you back after months and is like, oh yeah, I would like that. You're like, what?
Yeah, I would love to do that. Is this love bombing? Is this what love bombing is?
Well, no, there's still so much indifference at the core of it, Dane. It's hard to say that. But
Romantic gestures after long distance.
Sweeping romantic gesture. I mean, for Arya, maybe. She says...
Yeah, I think this is about as romantic as it gets for her.
I think so. I mean, it's the grass ship of love, Dane. Famously. She says the elves have chosen Islanzadi's successor, and she wants to see Eragon before she gets to Illyria with the news. Our boy's giddy like a schoolgirl, reading the note over and over and itching to wake Saphira the next morning to head to the designated rendezvous. And the chapter fades out as they fly off to reunite with Arya. Dane, what's next?
Well, fucking snap back into this. It's chapter 74. It doesn't fade out long. It's Fiernin. I'm sorry. I just can't believe I got this chapter,
I like
Jax.
that you're going to give this a whole read like an epic battle scene.
Yeah, well, it kind of feels like that. I'm sorry in advance, listeners, but I have some feelings about this chapter, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to tell. It's something I want to discuss at length,
Yes.
but I'm going to try and keep it brief here and really dig into that stuff on the bonus episode.
Okay.
This chapter starts, in seriousness, this chapter starts with Eragon going to the location Arya left in her note. Yuck. And he's all excited, looking everywhere for Arya, but she's nowhere to be found.
Uh-oh.
Until he and Saphira spot a green dragon in the sky.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Arya's a writer now. She was better than our main protagonist in every way, and now she's a writer as well.
Yes.
This is something I honestly find really tough. I'm having a hard time. They fly to meet the dragon in the air, and it's Skangly small dragon that's obviously pretty young.
I thought it was kind of cute.
It's kind of like a teen dragon.
Yeah, he was a cute, like a maybe bean farming teen dragon.
Played by Michael Cera. Eragon is elated, and the dragons fly together until they spiral down to the ground to talk. But wait, Arya's normal headband is replaced by a circlet of gold with a gem in the center.
Yeah, Dane.
That's right. She's also the queen of the elves.
Yeah.
Oh, and what's this? She has Tamerlane, the green rider sword, with the elf field lore. That's how you say that. With only lend Eragon, but has now been permanently augmented to a smaller and more graceful sword for our gal.
Yeah.
As a wise man once said, and a wise pop ingenue then covered, it's just so many things. Nothing's right. I'm torn. Arya gives him the honor of saying hello first in the elven custom.
That's nice, Dane.
But man, oh man, is that all just weird to me. Eragon is introduced to Fiernin, who has a very, very deep voice.
Yeah, like Michael Cera.
Like Michael's, notably like Michael Cera. In fact, it's deeper than any of the voices of the Eldenari.
Oh.
Just like, can you even hear it? How deep would this be?
It's like the reverse dog whistle of deep voices.
Yes. Positive here, though. Fiernin seems cool.
Yes.
He's very nice to Eragon and seems genuinely happy to meet him. The two dragons feel like getting it on pretty much right away, though, and Arya and Eragon leave them to mate.
Cool.
I do actually find this a little hilarious. I mean, I feel bad for my boy, but come on. It's a little funny and good for Saphira.
That is a tough look for Eragon. He's just like, this is fine. This is fine.
She's like, see him? I'm going to fuck him.
You're
anyway.
like, what?
It's like,
God
what?
damn it.
Arya apologizes for not communicating with Eragon.
That's nice.
Who, to be clear, is the leader of the new riders and the hero of ages who killed Galbatorix, and most importantly, supposedly, is Arya's great friend and battle mate.
Yes. She apologized.
She does apologize about keeping her dragon's birth, her bond as a rider, and her induction as the queen of the elves from him. And again, to be clear, she does not apologize for just taking the egg and going over his head to the Eldenari. I just want to be clear.
No. She explained that in her note.
Yeah.
She left him a note about that. That's old news.
Yeah. For me, her reasons frankly make no sense. She says she wanted to protect her newborn dragon from one of Gal's leftover agents, which they could have Scry talked about, or even if she had a note. Like,
she does love a note.
And said that, even if it was found and stolen, what would happen exactly? This agent would have to invade a place no human has set foot in for 100 years.
Yes.
Not even Galbatorix, notably. And do what? Kill a dragon in the Elven lands? I really think it's just out of pocket for even Arya.
Yeah.
Eragon says pretty much what I did, albeit nicer and more brief. And her response is that, quote, this is a quote, stranger things have happened.
What?
Which is a nothing statement. Yikes. Arya then goes on to tell Eragon that she was crowned the first month she was back.
Oh my god.
But she kept, sorry, I'm taking a moment. I gotta stretch.
Dane.
Yes. Yes. But she kept it secret from her ambassadors so she could spend time with her dragon and not worry about the affairs of state. Which I would point out here is why she shouldn't be a writer and queen. She's neglecting her duties as a queen right away, in her own words. And on top of that, she got to study on the crags of Telnier. So that's nice. Eragon sits in silence.
Do you think she lives in Orvis's hut? That feels
right, doesn't it?
It feels so right and so wrong.
It feels right for Arya. It feels wrong for everyone else.
Yes.
Glader's like, you did what now? Eragon sits in silence for a moment. I imagine just freaking out.
Stunned.
I also imagine he's a little shocked and hurt. But he asks more about her and Firnin and how that all happened. We learned that Arya was asked to be queen by the higher-ups in the Elven community. And while she first denied the request, she finally agreed with their way of thinking.
Okay.
How does she not see the harm this is going to do to the true neutrality of the riders and the supremacy of the elves that is already kind of a problem for the other races?
Yeah.
I do not know. Arya gives us a nothing burger response when Eragon asks why they want her to be queen.
Yeah.
And suggests that it's because she was a writer.
Yes.
Arya says that elven politics and their game of houses are superior and more complex than the other races. And I think this is a blind spot of hers. I think she can't see this is elven supremacy, which is the very thing I think every other race rightfully worries about the elves.
Yes, feels very on brand for, I'm not like a princess like you humans think of princesses. It doesn't really work that way. And you're like,
okay, well then explain
okay.
it. Like, what?
I'm sure it's not complicated. There are only like so many ways a ruler can get picked, girl.
Well, and look at this. The princess is now the queen. Weird. It seems like it wasn't that different. Anyway, Eragon asks how she can be a writer and a queen. Good question, Eragon. Keep doing this. Since the writers are supposed to be neutral.
Yes.
How is she going to help him rebuild their order and raise the next generation of dragons if the other races can't trust her intentions as the queen of the elves? And I mean, he is literally grappling with this himself. The same thing I'm grappling with. Eragon, you and me are one. We saw him decline this imperial crown like a month ago.
Yes, he got it.
Her response is that he's a clan member of the dwarfs and swore allegiance to Nasuada, so the elves need their rider. And this feels so off base for someone who is supposed to understand Eragon. He is half elf, basically, at this point. And his most revered master was an elf.
Yes.
He clearly has got a stake with the elves. Every rider owes their bond to the elven magic.
Yes.
They all have a stake with the elves. Her tying herself to the elven race as its leader is just not the same thing.
No, it feels like a bit of a step up, Dane, from what Eragon's done.
She's like, you got adopted, so I became queen.
It's like, what?
I don't know about that.
It's weird because I don't make decisions for any of those groups, not a single one. It's so
weird.
What?
Essentially, she claims no one else, not one other elf, could shepherd her people. This is just arrogance to me, and I think Eragon as well. He calls her out and says that her people will always need. Like, they're always going to need her.
Yes.
And Arya, missing the point, says she'll always answer their call. It's truly a mess.
Yes.
And I don't think it had to be like this. Like I said, I really want to pick this apart and think through some alternative endings for this.
Okay.
For these crazy kids in the bonus episodes,
Ooh.
I have thoughts.
Gonna do a little fanfic?
Yeah, we'll do a little fan
Hell
fiction.
Yeah.
Eragon is troubled by this entire clusterfuck, and it seems like we are already have a problem brewing in the future for sure.
Okay.
But his comfort is in the fact that he knows his own choice with Saphira and the other Eldenari is the right one.
Yes.
True growth from our bro.
Yes.
He continues to talk with Arya, and Eragon shares what he's been doing over the last few months. Meanwhile, Firnin seems like a totally chill dude. He's telling Saphira this embarrassing story about hunting a deer.
Yes.
And I like this dude. He's dope. Saphira flirts back and shares some stories to Firnin about romantic Lake Leona.
Oh.
A wonderful place to vacation, I hear.
She's putting the moves on.
Yeah.
What's that thing in Friends where they all tell the story about the trip? That's
Oh,
the ultimate move.
Oh, no, I don't know that.
Oh, my God.
That's
The whole thing,
hilarious.
yeah.
Then Saphira decides she wants to fuck this green little dude. And what she tells Eragon when he's concerned is a legendary quote. Quote, dragons don't mate for life. Get him, girl.
Yes, queen.
His gats don't mean shit to Saphira. They start biting each other and getting all worked up.
Ooh.
And Firnin shoots out fire for the first time.
Yeah, he does.
And they fly in the fucking air. It's wild. Literally wild. Eragon and Arya stand awkwardly. Eragon because of the sex, and Arya because of the magic of an almost extinct race coming back into the land and the beauty of this rare moment. And here, in the wind down of the series, Eragon busts out a classic coping tool, squatting down to draw a little picture in the dirt.
Do you think Christopher Paolini did this on purpose?
Yes.
I mean, I know I'm supposed to be like themes and symbols, but like, I don't know what this is supposed to be telling me, but it does happen all the time. Do you think he did it for us, Dane?
Yes, this was for
good.
us. Christopher Paolini could see the future, and he
think
was like, "They're gonna
so.
love this."
I also, in this scene, wasn't Eragon like... Doesn't he think like, I kind of know what's happening up there because like the Eldenari have like shown me? I was like laughing out loud because Eragon like is clearly thinking of like some dragonborn he's
Yeah,
seen.
he's seen dragonborn.
And Arya is clearly thinking about like actual sex she's had in real life. And I'm just like, these two are not a good match.
And not a good match. Well, on that note, Eragon thinks about how wonderful Arya is and how beautiful she is. He thinks about how much he knows of her life and all they have been through together.
Yeah.
He then gets the urge to make another fairthograph of her.
Learn your lessons, bud.
Yeah. Better than he made back in the day, but
Okay.
probably still what Ormus would call rough, but true. But this time, when he proactively throws it to break it,
He's trying to beat her to the punch.
yeah, Arya
good.
snatches it with magic and
What?
takes a look. Yeah, well, she doesn't care about boundaries. She seems to be moved by the picture
Oh, cool.
as she stares at it for a long moment and says in the ancient language that she would like to tell him her true name. What? Jax, help me understand. Why now? Walk me through it. Well, too late. She whispers it, and Eragon understands her and, of course, accepts her and thinks she's swell. He tells her he's proud to be her friend
That's
and that
nice.
he will keep her name safe.
That's really, really big of him.
Yep. Eragon offers to share his name.
Of course he does.
And when he does, she says in return that he has a good name and tells him he's no longer a child,
Ooh.
which is something you love to hear from the woman you love. Is this grooming, Jax?
Dude, I was literally just about to say that. That is definitely the vibe I got. That read in 2024 is like, oh, no, thank you.
It's very weird. They have a new bond now, which I feel odd about, but here we are. Eragon then asks, what is to become of them? Arya says she doesn't know, but that once she would have said there was no future, and now she can only think that he is still very young, and that humans are flighty, essentially. He says basically that his feelings won't change, and she touches his face and tells him that if that is true, in time, maybe, and that he can't ask for more from her, which, I mean, fair.
guess if you say so.
Yeah, I mean, that's her
That's your
boundary. She's got to be busy undermining his work. You know, he's uniting the writers. She's got to undermine
stuff
that.
to do.
She's got elf leadership to do.
Classic, like, will they, won't they? Enemies to lovers.
It's fucking wild. She says that she doesn't want to make a mistake with him, and I think that ship has sailed. And he's important not just to her, but to the whole of Alagasia, which is the literal only thing that she has said in this entire chapter. That I'm like, yeah, that's true. Then
Hey, Dane, remember when she apologized?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you were wrong.
Then Eragon breaks down a bit, saying he doesn't have time. He tells her he's going to leave Alagasia and raise the dragons elsewhere. They have to leave as soon as they can, and he asks if she'll come with him and leave her queenship. Obviously, she says no,
Yep.
but as her answer, she asks if he would give up charge of the dragon eggs, and I will not even begin to go into how that is very different. But man, is Arya really missing it for me here. She asks if the Eldenari know of this and if they will agree. Interesting. And I'm proud of Eragon here, as he says he hasn't told them, but he knows that they will agree with him because he is in freaking charge, Arya.
Yes.
He then says he was always prophesized to leave and asks once again if she will come with him.
Don't debase yourself.
I know. She says,
Lose her number, dog.
I know, dude. He's like begging. And she's like, no. And on that romantic note, they hold hands and watch their dragons fuck as the chapter fades to black. That's my chapter.
I have no words. When we broke all this down, we always alternate chapters. You always start the episode, and I was like, I am so sorry, Dave.
I know. If you're listening and you're like, it could have been that bad. It took me a long time to get through this chapter, and I wrote a lot more.
Yeah, a lot got edited out that is going to be in that bonus episode, I guess.
Jax
We'll
took
see.
a red
Maybe
pen.
I'll red pen that too, but I don't think so. That's off the cuff. So.
That's going to be off the cuff. We didn't write any of that down.
No, if you want Dane's unvarnished thoughts on this, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad this is one of those ones where you also agree with me. So it's just like was just toning it down because we don't need another hater segment.
Well, we did still. I think this is a 2-for-1 finale episode.
It might be a little bit of the haters. We'll see.
That does take us to chapter 75, A Man of Conscience. This chapter opens on Eragon heading into his big meeting with Nasuada the next day. You know, the whole magic police meeting.
Okay.
Catching back up with that. She's lounging and taking in a private concert with her maid, Elva, and the werecat ambassador. But Eragon convinces her to step outside so her odd little coterie doesn't hear the bomb he's about to drop on High Queen President.
I was about to say weird vibes in that room.
Super. Yeah, I was like, is everybody okay?
Did Nasuada turn evil?
Yes. Let's find out. She's in a shockingly good mood, and she reveals to Eragon that the witch baby is now her therapist and helping her work through her depression and PTSD. And if this is the end of our road with Elva, I think the implications of this new service she's providing give me the ick as much as truly anything else that's happened to her in this story. So in that way, it is a fitting place for her character to end up because what did you say in the beginning? As ever it was. Yeah. In what's becoming a pattern in these resolution chapters of this episode, Eragon is worried about this dynamic. He doesn't like it. But
somehow I'm not worried about him at all. But I am worried about everybody else.
That's what he's thinking. Every new situation, he's like, well, I don't like that. And then he's like, none of my business, though. That's his constant refrain in the denouement. Is that the word?
The denouement
of this book.
Yeah.
So he gets down to business telling Nasuada that he can't be the head of her magic secret police because he is leaving. Not a don't have the magic secret police, just I can't be involved. Just kidding. He doesn't like this. Yeah. He walks her through his reasons for going with hits like, I'm too busy to run your authoritarian spy network, and it's the only way to protect the Eldenari, and writers have to be impartial, unlike Arya. But ultimately, it's the whole unchecked immortal power thing that Eragon arrives at to convince Nasuada. And I like that she does trust Eragon so implicitly that she vehemently pushes back on the idea that he would abuse his power. She's like, it would never be like that. But even the barest possibility, however remote, that he could become another Galbatorix sways Nasuada in the end, because he's like, there's always a hint. You never know what's going to turn somebody. And in resignation, she casts him as a dangerous man of conscience, Dane. Nothing more dangerous than a man with morals.
I love the only woman who respects him in this story is not going to be with him.
No.
That isn't enough.
Dude. Can't catch a break.
He can't.
So Nasuada asks if he believes in any gods. It was a weird pivot for me. And she presses him kind of for a long time on his religious philosophy. And I think it's a misguided attempt to confirm that he does in fact have morals.
Yes.
And I guess we know Nasuada. We've seen her think of her religion several times on screen, right? But this still felt a little out of character to me.
It was a little weird to me, too.
Because I feel like I'm always expecting her to be so pragmatic and savvy, and this just is not it.
Yeah, I see her more of it seems of all the characters, the question of morality would be a lot more complicated to her.
Yes.
Than just whether you believe in a god and what's right or wrong.
100%. I mean, she famously is the cross-cultural alliance lady. It's you should understand everybody's point of view. That's how you made it this far.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of startling, and it's that's weird. That's a little weird. Yeah,
and the only thing I can really think is maybe this is in here to give Eragon a little bit of this is where he is on religion, since he's explored it so much in the series.
I also think he's what Christopher Paolini is trying to do is just show how powerful Eragon is, that she's well, you're godlike.
She's terrified of him.
So what is guiding you?
Yes.
Yeah, which might be, I don't know.
Yes, he does give us a classic atheist agnostic response saying he does not need religion to have morals and act in good conscience. That is just a real thing.
Yeah.
And it just is strange considering he just laid out how easily his power could lead him astray despite the guardrail of his moral compass. The whole thing is just like, who's on what side? I'm so confused.
I just love that this started with her lounging with a werecat and Elva and
listening to like a private lute player. I'm like, girl, what? It's so strange. But Nasuada is appeased by this reply. She says she'll trust him, and he promises to help when he's called, and he'll set up like a scrying mirror hotline so she can reach him anytime. And then Nasuada asks Eragon to teach her magic police chief the name of names. And I was really, really proud of him for just absolutely putting his foot down on this. He says it's too risky for anyone, especially some like ambitious, untrained hedge magician to know this.
He's like your backwater magician.
Absolutely not, girl. To her credit, Nasuada immediately sees reason. She's like, yeah, that makes sense.
She's like, okay.
You're right. Which leaves Eragon to reveal some like plan he has involving the Urgles, the dwarves, cementing alliances, and balancing the races.
Yeah.
And
that's someone's thinking about it.
Yes. With 3 chapters left, I'm sure we're about to find out what he has in mind, but for the time being, Nasuada just worries about the burden he's taking on before ultimately agreeing that he does have a really good plan.
Yeah.
He tells her that he's planning to leave just truly as soon as possible, which I was a little surprised by.
Yeah, me too.
And that Angela's prophecy, he thinks, makes the chances that he'll come back pretty slim. And they both choke up a little bit, contemplating how much they're going to miss each other, because they really are friends. I mean, we see it again here. We've seen it before.
That's what I mean. Like his only friend who is a girl who also respects him. Just...
It's tough.
Yeah.
So Eragon gives Nasuada an open invitation to retire at his remote dragon compound. Which I thought was nice, but like obviously she's never going to do that. But okay, what do you think, they're going to have elections soon?
So fun. They're going to have elections.
And that's where this bittersweet or sinister sweet, is that a thing?
Well, yeah.
Chapter kind of ends.
I will say I didn't. The prophecy does not mean. I mean, whenever he leaves for the last time and doesn't come back, that's when the prophecy strikes.
Yeah.
So, like, he could leave now, come right back, and be like, well, that wasn't the time in the prophecy. It's pretty...
That wasn't for the last time.
Yeah, it's pretty open-ended. So, like,
so true.
He's really leaning into this, but, like, I don't think he should be that worried. Because, like, I mean... he's gonna live forever.
Yeah,
this could be 1,000 years from now, and it's like, oh, he never came back.
Do you think he just kind of likes a dramatic goodbye?
I think so.
It's like how people are like, I'd want to go to my own funeral to like listen to what everyone has to say about me.
Yes.
Not me personally. That'd be horrible.
I would love that.
Yes. So like that vibe. He's like, I can never return. Tell me how much you love me before I go.
Well, I think he only has, Ormus played it pretty cool, right? Ormus was a very humble guy.
Yes.
I think he learned a little bit of the flair for the dramatics with his little run-in with Galbatorix. You know what I mean?
I think that's so true. Nasuada ends this chapter giving Eragon her blessing to have a peaceful life in front of him. It was such a mixed bag because she's so scary here. Hard to overstate. I know you're going to dig into that a little bit, but like also she genuinely is very kind to Eragon, and there's a lot she does in this chapter as I was reading it that I was like, I mean, that's not an evil way to respond to this, or that's not an evil way to like take in and process this information, but like just the facts of the plan on the ground are so evil, it's so hard to like balance.
Well, here's the thing.
It's wild.
I think we've moved into something that we didn't have with Galbatorix. Galbatorix was a very like black and white thing. He was insane. He was evil. He like allowed slavery. He did genociding. He was a bad guy. Pretty evil.
Yes.
We're going. I feel like the series is going more gray.
Yes, for sure.
And so I think the thing with like real life, the struggle is like there is no good and evil. People are shades of like, I mean, this is a personal belief. There are people out there like there is evil, but I think like everyone is a shade of shitty, right? And I think what we're seeing in Nasuada is she's logical. She is thinking about, she wants to protect Algasia, whatever. So I do think like her darkness is also in that same vein. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Arya. We're seeing she's an Elva supremacist.
Yeah,
it's very clear.
Racist.
Yeah, she's racist. It's very clear she is. But she doesn't see it, right? And
No,
she doesn't feel evil to herself. She feels like she's doing a good.
Yes, and she does generally want good things. She has worked her entire life for good outcomes for the world.
Thus the complexity here of I don't think any of these characters are good or evil anymore. I think we're slowly moving in these last chapters to something different, which is, I think, actually a good thing.
We'll revisit that, Dane. I got you.
Chapter 76, Blood Price. We remain with Eragon right after his talk with Nasuada, and this chapter is kind of a farewell tour.
Okay.
First, he runs into Angela and Solomon, who, it turns out, are popping by just to see Eragon before he departs Alagasia with the Eldenari, which they oddly seem to already know about.
Of course they do, Dane. Why wouldn't they? Is it odd? Do they oddly seem to know about that?
Eragon mentally runs through his checklist, concluding that it's fucking impossible for him and Nasuada to have been spied on.
Yes.
Leaving Eragon super puzzled, and I think a bit spooked about how she knows this.
Yeah.
I think also Paolini's trying to tell us, ooh, she is different.
She knows everything. Yeah.
But to her credit, this is nice.
Yeah.
She wants to tell him farewell and good luck, which was surprising to me since she's always kind of been aloof and not often very kind
she
to our
has slapped him on several occasions. Yeah.
To our, I was going to call him a little bean boy, but I can't do that anymore.
No, Dane.
To our strong hero. Angela says that she will be leaving Alagasia too because she disagrees with Nasuada in the extreme about the whole magician Gestapo.
Yep.
Angela also says that they might head towards the Dorvan or Elven nations.
Okay.
Eragon asks if she wants to come with him, which surprised me because Eragon doesn't seem to like her too much, but she declines because it sounds boring and she needs to stick around to watch over Elva.
I feel like I memory hold that.
Yes.
You were like, he asked her to come. I was like, he did what?
Yes. Well, also she's like, that sounds boring. And I'm just like, dude, what the fuck? And then with that, I say goodbye. I, for one, will not miss Angela. Adios. Eragon stops at Jode's place and I fucking love it. Helen, who's a sleeper choice, but on my roster for sure of top characters to draft, is rolling in money with the gold Eragon gave them and her war profiteering. She is richer than her dad or Jode ever were with their trading companies.
Hell yeah, that's feminism, Dane.
Yeah.
She's bringing the movement up.
Hell yeah. They live in a huge home with many servants.
Hell yeah.
Good for them. Eragon asks if Joe would like to join him with the dragons, which also
that's so nice.
So nice. But the old scholar wants to be with his happy wife, which is also just so nice.
Yes.
Joe then tells Eragon that he is a member of the Arcana, which you will remember, Jax, is the secret order who believe in the preservation of knowledge and assures Eragon that his story will not be forgotten.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, Jode has written about his and Saphira's adventures, so they may be added to Domir Aberirda.
That's so nice. Do you think somebody in the future is going to be prophetically told to look at Eragon's section of this book and they're going to be like,
I don't know. I can't, what this.
I don't want to read. This is such a boring chapter. Where is it in the chapter?
What does it mean, page 554? I don't know what that means. Next, Eragon tells Rowan and Katrina about his leaving the continent. They talk all night about it. Rowan slams some fists and clenches some jaws after some yelling. It's more sad than scary.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. We learned that the Carvajals are about to go back and remake Carvajal better. And Roran is going to build a castle with a wall to defend the people of Carvajal.
Okay. You think he's going to build it back better, Dane? or is this just infrastructure week? I can't quite get a read on that.
I love that. It's really cool. Eragon then says that Arya is going to take Roran and Katrina with her to the Dwarven strongholds and then to the Elven lands for a week for a little post-war honeymoon.
Hell yeah.
At first, they're not into it, but they would like to see. Yeah, they're like, we don't really need to do that.
What?
We can't. Well, we couldn't vacation now.
Possibly.
At first, they're not into it, but they would like to see Eragon off as he sails from Dueld and Varden.
Okay.
Snowfire comes up again, and he is alive and well. Just a little horse check for all of you. We will be retiring like Snowfire. This is the end of his story. So, horse fact is now over.
Horse facts, amen.
Until the next series.
Yes. There are always more horses in fantasy novels, if I've learned one thing.
This will not be our last horse or our last horse fact. Eragon bids them farewell and calls Auric on his Mir cell phone to catch up with his adopted brother.
That's nice.
It's awesome.
So they are having catch-ups.
They are. They're talking. Maybe family therapy. Who knows? But before they're using Elva too. But before we get to that, when he calls, Auric is combing his long hair. And dude, I love him. He's always stealing the show with for me with whatever scene he's in. What a badass self-care king, you know? We've talked about his fashion choices, but you know he's the best groomed character in this book.
100%. I mean, the fits outfits are off the charts. Do you think he's like a street style icon in Alagasia?
Hell yeah.
Good.
He always has like a man bun sometimes.
Oh, sorry, tunnel style icon.
Tunnel style icon. Anyway, Auric is totally chill with Eragon leaving and has been thinking about what Eragon would do.
Yeah.
He, unlike the other two leaders, is already on board for this.
So nice.
And now I'm going to jump and tell us something ahead of time.
Okay.
We don't have to do that, but I want to put everything we're talking about in context.
Okay.
We do learn it in the next chapter. It's pretty cool. Auric gets a shock, and we learn that Eragon would like to add the dwarfs and the Urgles to the dragon bond.
Okay.
It's very dope. It's a very wise move. But what is even cooler is Auric's response.
Yeah.
He tells Eragon that even if he loses his kingship for this decision, he agrees and is all for it.
Aww.
He says that any Dwarven king before him would have said no, and frankly, he would have said no.
Damn.
But after the war that included figures like Murtagh and Shuriken, and what they meant for the risks the dwarfs faced because of their disconnect from the riders, he thinks he's duty-bound to say yes on behalf of his race. He's the best king. We must protect him at all costs.
Yes, dude.
Dude, good thing he's our Dwarven bro and not our Dwarven daddy. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you and I made that call so early on not to designate him as a daddy.
He's not a daddy.
We have saved him in this way, and everybody is welcome. Yeah. I also was thinking, like, this was kind of Auric's policy platform. So, like, can people be that mad about it? When he got elected, he was like, we got to mix it up with everybody else. We have stood on the sidelines for too long. I mean, they're going to be pissed. I understand that.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's because it's two different things. I think, like, the dwarfs to me seem like they're going to be weirded out, regardless of how on board they are for the policy, about the whole magical bond of it all. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to be like, we support, we're on board, you can come by, but it's another to be like, we're all like bound together in this like seance type situation. You know what I mean?
They had their own like coronation seance where they summoned a god. This like could
that was
be
Guntera, Papa Guntera.
But I don't know. I agree. I guess my thing is I would assume they'd have more reservations just because dwarves usually are characterized as like a race with a long memory who likes to hold a grudge, and like just the famous animosity between dwarves and dragons gives me the vibe they would have trouble being bonded specifically to dragons. But
they would definitely, I mean, and Murtagh's still out there, so they would be bonded essentially to
Yes. I just think if Auric needs some PR help for his rollout strategy for this, I've got his back. Because he did tell them about, I will be publishing speeches from the clan meet to let the people know.
You become a speechwriter for Auric?
Yes.
That'd be hilarious. Well, anyway, Eragon and Arya set off with Rowan and Katrina. Arya will go straight to the elves, and Eragon will stop at Rowengard first to get the rest of the Eldenarian eggs.
Yes.
Nasuada, Jode, and Elva have a tearful goodbye when a crazy Carvahaller comes to ruin the fun. They are nothing if not consistent. Bridget comes to take her blood debt from Roran with a shield and sword. Remember that? We
couldn't leave the series, Dane, without one more like oddly detailed mention of Quimby's niblets. She describes like the bones a little bit. And suddenly, actually, now that those words are coming out of my mouth and having read this scene, I'm suddenly very nervous that Bridget is going to come for me for all the niblets jokes. I think she and I have a blood debt.
Do you have a blood feud?
Fuck.
It's really strange here, and it feels like a random loose end Paolini wanted to tie up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all power to him. That's fine. It ends up being a whole lot of nothing. And Bridget just cuts him on the palm.
Great.
So I'm glad she interrupted their tearful goodbye to do that. Then Eragon leaves the Empire, heading for Rowengard. And that's the end of my chapter because... Wow, that was a lot going on.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. That's all it says on the page. There's no ending here, and I'm Ron Burgundy. You know what I mean?
That does take us to chapter 77, Promises New and Old. Here we go. This is my last chapter summary of OG Inheritance Cycle. We start in a place that I love, with Eragon meeting back up with Bloodgarm and his magic elven strike team of doom.
Yep.
Okay, to pack up the Eldenari for the trip. Like Arya, the elves head straight to Do Weldonvarden while Eragon and Saphira detour to Rowengard, and they'll all rendezvous in Silthrim before leaving Alagasia for good. The elves basically are going to like secure the boat.
Yes.
And I don't know why I'm so attached to Eragon and Bloodgarm's friendship.
Oh, I wonder why.
But I mean, I'm like very invested even before we started writing all these unhinged jokes about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just like makes me truly happy that like the Sex Panther decides to stay.
Here's what I would say. It seems like they generally like each other.
Yeah.
And it seems like Bloodgarm's a cool dude. I mean, we make a lot of jokes about the Sex Panther thing, but he just seems cool.
Yeah, he seems kind. He's very powerful, which
Yes.
is always fun in a character. And it's like he and Eragon don't have any kind of complicated history. They're just
No.
like kind of fun. They kind of joke around. They're mostly nice. And
Yeah.
you're like, good. Yeah, somebody who just like likes Eragon. I think he needs more acquaintances, Dane. He has too many like family members and
Yes.
like
Well, also,
adopted dads.
it's funny you say that. I don't feel like Bloodgarm has any wants of Eragon.
No,
You know what I mean?
not at all.
He has no designs.
No.
Well, maybe one, but
Okay. As Eragon and Saphira head off, they fly over Alagasia, and he's taking his final, like, longing looks at the land of his ancestors, where he was born, where he was raised. They spend the second night of their journey in an Urgle village, where your boy Nargarshbra has insisted on throwing Eragon a rager.
hell yeah.
After a night of heavy drinking and storytelling, it's up to hungover Eragon to convince the Council of Ancient Urgle Women to hop on the bandwagon for his new riders.
So
plan.
cool.
I know. I'm like, why would you get drunk the night before that, bud? I thought you were growing up. But first, he wants the Urgles to work out their aggression the same way that you do, Dane.
Yes.
Feats of strength.
Yes.
He wants them to avoid endlessly escalating violence by proving their prowess at Urgle Olympics.
Yeah.
And I'm like a huge Olympics stan. I love the dumb human Olympics. So I would be watching Urgle Olympics at like all hours of the night, all the obscure events. Count
Yeah.
me in. Every year for the Olympics, I learn like way too many facts and backstories about all the competitors. Anyway, that's a little bit about
That's
me.
a little bit about Jacqui. That's 100% true.
Yes.
Loves it.
It's the best. But the Urgle Council loves this idea. They're not sure the games alone will solve their like cultural problem of violence, but I think they even agree it'll make a start.
It's a good start. Yeah.
Yes. So Eragon comes correct with the other part of this plan, which shocks the council into silence before they declare that if he does what he's proposing, making the Urgles riders, he will be a hero in the pantheon of Urgles for all of time. They agree. They hammer out logistics before Garshbra thanks Eragon personally, and he and Saphira continue off to Rowengard.
Yeah,
Eragon
it's-
and Saphira, not
yeah.
Garshbra and Saphira.
Well, that would
Just to
be,
be very clear.
He's like, well, riders now? I'm the rider now. But no, this is without a doubt probably my favorite part of this ending.
Yes.
I think this is the nicest thing, and I think the way that the Urgles respond is beautiful. I think Eragon ties, and it is the final tie to the races.
Yes.
We've talked about how he's tied to all the other races. This is going to make him the most important figure in the
Yes.
future of the Urgle history, and I just think it seals a deal for me as Eragon II. You know, he's starting.
Absolutely.
He's starting it.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
I was just going to say, he said seals the deal, but I think we have been seeing and talking about and getting very worried about the cracks we've seen in the alliance with the Urgles and like how that's going to shake out as we wrap the series up. And I think this is exactly what is going to seal up some of those cracks in a really big way.
I thought you were going to say they're going to use real seals.
Maybe in the Olympics. I don't know what kind of events they want, Dane, but seal hunting's illegal, you psycho. Anyway, as Eragon and Saphira
We've lost it. We've officially lost it.
As Eragon and Saphira continue on their way to Rowengard, no eldritch storms or sea monsters on the flight, so they make it to Rowengard without incident. Eragon starts their island vacation with just a little taxonomy, like you do. He uses the name of names to give like the mutated island creatures proper ancient language names before like they even get to bed the first night they're there. He's like, very important, must do.
Why do you think he does that?
I think it's so that maybe in the future people can like start to understand and like cleanse this maybe.
Okay.
That could just entirely be headcanon, but I get the feeling like he wants this to be something that maybe could be fixed, but it's none of his business.
He's like, I'm busy.
Yes. But at dawn, Eragon and Saphira head back into the Vault of Souls to pack the remaining Eldenari and eggs into another pocket dimension. So without further ado, Dane, Saphira picks up the robot dragon like in her claws. It's so fucking fun. And they fly back over Palancar Valley one last time on their way to do Weldonbarden. They're greeted in Elismira by Arya, Fiernan, Roran, and Katrina. And our brother cousin and his wife, they were hestant about this vacation, Dane, but they are jazzed about their little trip, which is really fun to like relive the first time that like we saw Trondheim, the first time we saw Elismira, and they're just like, did you know there's a world out there that's not just war torn and horrible? And it's like, yeah.
I picture Katrina in like a Hawaiian dress.
Yes.
And Roran in like a matching Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, Roran's doing the whole like New Balances, cargo shorts, Hawaiian shirt. He's got the big camera on the strap around his neck and like a bucket hat. He's crushing it. Saphira and Fiernan go to get busy at the crags immediately. Just no words. While the humans and elves enjoy a vegan feast late into the night. And after eating, Eragon heads to the Manoa tree. Yeah. Speaking of wrapping up loose ends. He wants to tell the elven god, who definitely isn't a god, Dane, that she can take her payment for the bright steel now. Yeah. And the tree just seems amused and tells him to go. And if this sounds like utter gibberish to anybody listening, please refer back to Dane's Red String Conspiracy Wall of Manoa Tree fan theories that he covered in season 3, episode 10.
It's all there.
It's all there. It was there all along.
Open your eyes, sheeple.
Yes. He spends a few days reading and chilling and feasting until at last, Dane, it's time to run his grand plan by Arya and her council, surprising nobody. It takes much more convincing with the elves than anyone else to this point, but they eventually agree to the plan, and at dusk, it's go time. Eragon, Arya, their dragons, the Eldenari, a collection of elite elves, and the dragon twins.
That was cool.
Who, yes, we learn here that they actually, their whole thing is that they embody the Rider Pact.
No idea what that means, but it sounds dope.
The magic that is the Rider Pact like lives physically in their bodies.
Wild.
I think. Well, at least that was.
Your headcanon. Yeah,
yes.
That's wild.
There's a lot of headcanon, I'm realizing. But they all gather in front of the Manoa tree. Again, this just is not a religion. They begin chanting, as they all did at the Agaiity Blotner, until the twin tattoo again becomes animated. And Eragon asks the Dragon Spectre for its blessing over his plan on behalf of the entire dragon race. It agrees with zero hesitation. Yeah. So take that, elves.
I mean, the dragons are probably psyched to get the Urgles involved. They're the most aligned.
Yes, we should be a little worried, I think, about how excited they are to have Urgle riders, but
the dragon's like, hell yeah.
That's none of our business. It's going to be fine, I bet. So Eragon uses the immense gathered strength here in the circle to weave like the spell of his life, calling upon every ounce of like magical technicality he and the Eldenari possess, along with the Name of Names, to remake the Rider Pact. And this time he includes the dwarves and the Urgles along with the humans and elves as potential rider candidates, changing the foundation of race relations in Alagasia for eternity.
How cool.
It's fucking so cool. And when the work is finished, Eragon is exhausted but satisfied, and as everyone celebrates with a feast that evening, he's overcome by his emotions. He excuses himself for some self-care time in the woods. He's a man in the woods.
He likes to be alone.
He really does.
He really likes to be alone.
It's a really good through line.
Yeah.
But he's not alone for long, Dane, because another loose end we couldn't leave this book without tying up pops out from behind a tree. Sloane is here to ruin this otherwise perfect day. The butcher has not fulfilled the terms of his restorative punishment, so he's still blind. And I did like that Eragon admits that he straight up forgot about this man that he cursed. I'm like, that's incredible. Also, same. So...
He's like, oh, you're the second person that cursed.
Oh, I forgot.
You're the intentional curse.
Yes. That was restorative justice. You're welcome. Which we agree with.
Yes.
Notably.
Yeah.
So.
Certified hair. Proof.
Yes. As it was in the very earliest chapters of the first book, Dane, so it is in the second to last chapter of Inheritance. This guy is still such a dick. Yeah. And Eragon is still trying to rehabilitate him. And I've been noticing like a small touch, just as a weird aside here, because it came up in the scene to the point that I was like, okay, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I've been noticing like through all these final chapters, Eragon has this like small touch of dry wit about him. Like he makes a too many hearts joke to Sloane here. He makes a Saphira is my higher power joke when he's talking to Nasuada about religion. And I'm like, okay, girl. It's only a little out of left field because he has like joked about things before, but I think what I started thinking was it adds a little levity, and I think it could be showing or trying to show that some of the weight is lifting from Eragon. Like he's not just a grim man as he gets more distance from that war. And maybe for the last time in this book, Dane, I digress.
Yeah, well, I like it because I think it also is showing a little bit of like, I think it's humor and it's exactly what you're saying. I also think there's a piece of this that is him like poking fun at who he is.
Yes.
Like, you know, poking fun.
That knowledge of himself allows him to be like, I know.
He's like leaning into the mystery and the godhood in some ways. And he's just like, hearts. I don't know. It's fun.
Or just like he's explored his identity. He knows his true name and it's just like armed with that.
Yeah,
I could make fun of anything. Nothing hurts me.
If only.
Yes. So Sloane says that he knows Katrina is in the city with his granddaughter, and he thinks Eragon has brought them there to taunt him, which we know that isn't true because Eragon did not remember him. But Eragon does feel guilty about that carelessness. And so out of that guilt, he gives the butcher his sight back. And I'm like, you relaxed your boundaries and your punishment. And that's not a good parenting choice, Eragon.
No, still won't learn anything now.
And after all we've been through with this accursed butcher from the first episode of this podcast, Dane, my final inheritance chapter wraps up with Sloane's incandescent joy at looking upon Katrina and her family and Eragon feeling at peace with the butcher's fate and bidding the man a final farewell.
I'm glad
that's what I get.
That's what you get.
Okay. That's my retribution for your Arya chapter.
And it takes us to our last chapter in the original inheritance cycle.
Get him, Dane.
Here we go. Chapter 78, Leave Taking. After a lovely week with Roran, Katrina, and Arya, it's finally time to end our story and for Eragon to leave Alagasia. The Sex Panther and his magic elven strike team of doom are arriving at the lake with Eragon's ship. And so Eragon and Saphira tell everyone they need to go.
Yeah.
Arya, Fiernan, and Roran travel along with Eragon to say goodbye. They fly to Lake Ardwin, and upon arrival, Eragon sees the boat they will be taking and instantly recognizes it.
Yeah.
It's the same boat from the dreams he's had since book 1.
Okay.
Eragon feels confident that this is the way it's always been meant to be.
Yeah.
They stay in Silthram, the city by the lake, where 20 elves who are coming along to help Eragon meet up with them and load up the metal dragon along with all the Eldenari eggs and supplies needed to travel and start a new settlement.
Can I lied about digressing for the last time. Quick aside. Yeah. What do you think Quarok is like on a boat trip?
Do you think
Bane of the Need Wall?
He's like, is there a need wall there?
No, this is a river, bud. We're fine. Everything's fine.
I'm gonna stay on the prow.
It's also like the first time he's been out in the longest time.
Also, what do people think about it? They're like, what the fuck is going on?
That? They're like, oh, it's my robot. And they're like, you're what?
What's a robot?
We don't have electricity. We don't have indoor plumbing.
Actually, I think the elves do.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, yeah, you're right.
We're in elven territory.
Oh my god, so true.
Additionally, Bloodgarb is joining them, but they are losing 2 of the remaining 11 magic elven strike team of doom.
Gotcha.
So the Sex Panther and the Elven 8.
Okay.
That's a new name.
It's perfect.
Got it.
No, it's worth the wait, I think.
100% the best thing we've done on this show. Anyway, Eragon sends 2 eggs with the Elven Riders, 1 to go to dwarves and 1 to go to the Urgles.
Okay.
If they should not hatch, they're going to switch and try some time with the opposite people.
Okay.
So,
do you feel at all like after kind of the same thing with Quarok, how he's just going to be psychotic coming out of the vault after 100 years? Do you think like with the eggs so ready to hatch, and there's a little like biological component, right? That they can't stay in suspended animation for too long. It's not good for them. Do you think this new crop of riders is just going to be like super mid? Like they'll just take anybody?
I would think that might be the case if there wasn't such a time of turmoil. I think I think like all the mid warriors and leaders have been either killed in battle or are overwhelmed by the sheer amount of regular people, right? Who have. So I would say I don't know. We'll have to see. I think there's something's going to be up with this new crop.
What you're saying is mass casualties have culled the prospects for the new riders.
Yeah, I think the new riders are all going to be pretty intense, hardened people.
So true.
Yeah. Anyway, once these new dragons have hatched for the new riders, they would spend time with Arya and Fiernan before they head towards Eragon, which I don't get. Do you get this?
This, I think I do. I mean, I think you're very tainted, Dane, by all your hatred of the earlier stuff. But I think, like, we saw Saphira when she was this young. Even, like, she was 6 months old when she and Eragon flew, and a storm almost killed her.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. I think for me, it kind of depends on how far away it actually ends up being that Eragon goes. But, like, they probably could use some, like, incubation time before they make, like, a dangerous journey like that. But
all I can think is elven superiority once again, right?
Yeah, I know.
All
That's
the
all
races.
you can think.
Well, all the races will have to spend time with the elven queen.
Yes.
Before they head to the rider.
Yes.
Which I just think is a little we're moving on.
It's almost like it's not really serving the goal of neutrality.
Yeah. Anyway, eventually all aboard a ship and sail down the Edda River all the way to Heddarth, the southernmost point of the map on Alagasia.
Yes.
Where the best fucking character in this entire fucking book,
Dude.
Eragon sees Auric waiting there to see his foster brother off. It sounds like he brings hundreds of clansmen, and it gets me every time.
I think I out loud was like, Auric?
Yeah. Auric also brought 4 giant boars to roast,
Yes.
3 wagons of the dwarves' finest meat for Saphira, and a chest full of gold for his adopted brother, and even jewelry for Saphira, a magic ring she can wear on any of her claws. It's so cool. It will never stain or be damaged, and will make it so that any prey she hunts won't hear her approach.
Hell yeah.
Saphira's obviously loves it.
Also, he just, like, gets her, dude.
Yeah. Then they have a fucking rager, and Auric convinces them to party all the next day, too. It's amazing. Eragon does have to stop binge drinking eventually.
I know. It has been a lot of partying.
Yeah.
Huh? I'm like, okay, he's in his early 20s now.
And Auric says, quote, "Then go with mine blessing, brother of my heart."
Oh.
I cry every time, I'm not going to lie. I cried this time. I've cried every time I've watched this. I read this part. I love this part. Anyway, then Roran, Arya, and Eragon take some horses as gifts from Auric to meet up with their boat, which went a bit downriver.
Yeah. I love that. Even in this, the elves are like, we are on a timetable.
They're like,
I think it's something about the tides breaking the boat, but they're like, gotta go.
I think that's just their
Catch
excuse.
up.
That's their excuse to leave early.
They're the, like, ass in seat at 8 a.m., Dad, or you're getting left.
Well, no, I think Bloodgarm just looked around at the Dwarven women and was like, I think we can head out.
So rude.
I know, he's so rude.
I think he's an equal opportunist.
Actually, yeah, he
Dane.
probably looked at the men,
what?
too. Eventually, they get to the river and the boat, and it's just like Eragon's prophetic dreams.
Yes.
The elves seem to have great respect for Eragon at this point, and the sacrifice he's making for all of dragonkind. So they stand in 2 columns leading to the boat with their spears out and at their sides like statues.
Yeah.
Saphira tells him it's time, and Eragon goes to Roran. He gives Roran the gold Auric gave him and tells him to build his castle on that hill they always talked about as kids. They hold each other, and Roran and Eragon call each other brother.
Dane, that got me good.
Yeah.
I'm sure 2011 Jacqui absolutely cried through all of these chapters. But 2024 Jacqui knew what was coming and got by the farewell between Eragon and Auric. It's so...
Yeah, got me too. Eragon asks Arya to stay with him one last time, and she says that she can't. He asks that she stay with him until the first curve in the river. Then she walks onto the ship with him, the elven entourage marching behind them. Then as the ship sails away, Roran cries into the sky, just like the prophetic dreams. Eragon and Arya say each other's true names, and then she steps back, and her dragon takes her off from the boat.
Yeah.
And Eragon weeps for a bit. But then, before the end of the book, he smiles, and that's the end.
I feel like Eragon was the emo-est teen all along, Dane.
There's a reason teen angst has always been on the warning label, Jacqui.
I just thought the warnings were for all the profanity.
Well, they originally were, but we had to add more to them.
Yes.
Because we like long names.
So true.
And speaking of long stuff,
Yes.
this episode is already long enough. We do have analysis and haters and deep dives.
Yes, I think we talked a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Just we were going to see how how much we ended up digging into those chapter summaries, but I think for now we are going to call this episode right here, make this a two-parter for the Inheritance finale, and then kick all of our ending segments over to a second part episode that you all can listen to. We'll release them on the same day. We don't hate you guys. No. They're bingeable, but break them into more manageable chunks, I think, is the move here.
So we're not quite done yet.
No.
We have one more episode to go on the book, and then one more bonus episode. Thank you for listening. Email us at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com with questions, feedback, and recommendations for other books to cover on the show. And I guess, much like Arya, we'll be ripped.
We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.